we've spoken a lot now about Pochettino and his style. He's kind of tied to a certain way of playing, ball pressure, pressing, quick transition, relentless, fitness, all that stuff. But Pochettino, in the I think it was the pre-match press conference, he spoke about his coaching philosophies, and he said this about not necessarily being married to one way of playing.
People sometimes say, no, that is my philosophy, my idea, and I'm going to die with my idea. No, I want to live because life is, it's amazing. I want to be clever and I want to win. I don't want to die. Sometimes we cannot play. Sometimes we need to find different way, to put our player in a comfortable zone.
Can I just say before I get to the kind of the meat of that, it's very important, and I would love if it was possible to have football journalists follow me around day to day, and when I make a joke, just the laughter. Football journalist or manager.
It's every sport. It's every single sport. I've heard it for years. It's every sport.
It's bad though. Stuff they would never usually laugh at. They go, like even harder. I remember
I thought this was funny.
Klopp could literally. I had a terrible comment there, but I won't say it. But Klopp could say the worst thing possible, and someone would go. It was and Pep the same. You're right.
It's all of them.
It's
all of them. I've heard it for years in baseball press conferences. I'm sure there's some sort of psychology to it. You want to be liked by the guy. You're not used to, it's a kind of a tense atmosphere. So when
and
someone
you don't want to
breaks
leave
the
him
tension,
hanging either, I suppose.
yeah,
but
and whenever somebody breaks the tension of a press conference with something mildly funny, it's magnified because maybe you're not expecting a joke. I thought that was all right from Poch.
But can I break it
Live
down?
and die, I want to live. It's good. Come on, that's comedy.
Andrew, I don't want to die, I want to live. All right. But breaking it down a bit. So, he doesn't want to die for a philosophy. But that always suggests that there's an underlying philosophy or principles of play to begin with.
Which he knows exist around him.
Yeah, of course. But he does have that. But what he is saying is, and he used the word clever, he's saying that, if there's a moment or, a situation or a scenario, be it away from home I keep talking about, what's he going to do on the road? JJ, he's literally his first competitive games of any note, apart from Gold Cup, are going to be a World Cup. Okay, so maybe I need to, but look, that
you're talking about it going away because the Gold Cup will be here too.
Yeah,
he's never leaving this country for an important game.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So maybe I'll abandon that. But you know what I mean? In a difficult scenario, he's going to have to, adjust and be clever, like he said. So I don't think it's anything crazy. He probably has heard people, talk a lot about the way he played at Southampton, the way he played at Spurs. Less so PSG and Chelsea, I'm sure. But the US didn't hire him to be anything other than those things, Southampton and Spurs era Poch. So
they hired him to win.
They
hired him to win.
Yeah. I think what he's saying is he's heard the chatter and the talk around him and probably thought, well, I need to push back that it's only going to be one way. But I expect the underlying principles or philosophy or whatever you want to call it of Mauricio Pochettino pressing, the stuff he laid out.
Sure, yeah.
The stuff he laid out in the press conference, like saying, we will be demanding. And when we're off the ball, there'll be absolute things that I will demand of the players. That's not going to change. By the way, he didn't look happy at any point in this game. Just after the first goal, he looked happy, but he was dead serious. He was quite stoic, was noted in a few match reports. It wasn't just me, Andrew. He's going to want certain things. And I just wouldn't, I know what he's saying, but I just wouldn't swallow it. There is going to be a core potchness to this thing.
Yeah, look, there's always the base system around this guy,
right,
around most managers. And that is what I would expect more often than not. But I do kind of like hearing this. Look, he doesn't have experience in the international game. Um, and you mentioned PSG and Chelsea. I do think his style was a little bit different at those two places than they were at some of his previous stops. I think he
Right.
was a little more pragmatic in those places. Um, I don't think he's entirely against some
Well,
of those
Chelsea was such
principles,
such a mess. It's hard to know what was going on.
I suppose. But
It got good towards the end, but like like they lost so many games. You're like, is this guy going to get the boot after
but
everyone said he was the right guy to be in there?
I do think though that there's he probably knows this, and maybe it's partially why he said it. Like the international game is different. It is. And if you're trying to he has his principles, and that's great. And he'll try to instill them in the team. But if you're trying to instill principles in a team and you're the manager of their in a domestic league, you're the everyday manager of a 38 match season, you can draw a game or you can lose a game. Think about Ange against Chelsea when they went
Well,
down 2 men. You can sacrifice a game if it teaches some greater lesson about getting the message across of what we are and what we're going to be come hell or high water.
yeah,
But in the international game, Jay, like you're not afforded that in a
no,
summer tournament. You do what you must do to win and
right,
advance. There's no time. I mean, I guess these friendlies serve as that, but ultimately, you know, who your competition is, who you're up against is going to, if you're the US, if you're playing France in the World Cup and you're not as talented, is this the moment to teach a lesson? No, God,
no,
no. You win. And so I think he probably understands that. And I would say if he doesn't, then that's a little naive. So I'm okay. I'm totally fine. If we don't always get what we think we're getting with this manager, and some matches maybe are a little more boring or defensive minded or whatever, you know where I stand on this.
yes, I
Especially
do.
especially with in the international with the US internationally. Domestic leagues, I'm a little different. I am okay with, style means a little bit more to me in those games because it's every week. But this stuff is like short burst tournaments every 4 years, legacies defined in 5 games. Like
Yeah,
you do what you have to do to win. And so
yeah.
if this is his way of telling us that, I'm cool with it.